Uh, I don't know if this man needs an introduction or not, but if you have ever seen the internet and you're a haunt enthusiast, you know who Joe is coming up. So we're going to bring him on right now. Is he at? Where's he at? Come on.
Can you see me? Hello.
Now, I was going to attempt to pronounce your last name, but I heard it pronounced 3 different ways in like the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Why don't you just nail it for us and get it out of the way?
Yeah, it's just Bodkin, Bodkin.
Bodkin.
Yeah, Joseph Bodkin.
See, I've heard Bodkin, I've heard Bodkin,
Yeah.
and then I've heard Boykin, which I don't even know.
I don't know. There's no Y in it. There's no I. Everybody gets kind of tripped up on it, so it's another reason just having Pongo Joe, something that rhymes, what was easy enough.
So, speaking of Pongo, when it comes to stunt actors, there's 2 people that come to mind, and everybody says the same thing. One Slider Jesus, and the other one is you.
Yep.
You guys, started separately, and luckily you guys came together, and you guys are doing a lot of really cool stuff. But even before you guys came together, the 2 of you were taking sliding to a whole different plane of existence. Like, I remember, over 10 years ago when I got started into sliding and I was doing it, it was this like really cool thing. Now, a lot of people have seen sliders.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden overnight, like everybody saw sliders, and the whole trend started to like die down a little bit. And then all of a sudden the 2 of you just come kicking in the door, and now it's awesome. It's like super, super cool now to have this.
I'll tell you how and where it happened exactly. So sliding has always been popular, but it was very confined to the Halloween haunt, not Scary Farm in California. Before TikTok, and even Instagram for that matter, there were sliders on YouTube, and that's how many people saw it first. But somewhere around 2020, when this pandemic started heating up, everybody decided to get on TikTok. I'd been making videos and sliding stuff for years on Instagram, but it always stayed kind of underground, and it didn't quite. It would, I'd get a couple of videos that got like, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 views, but nothing like crazy substantial. It was still very kind of underground. And then me and Cody, old Slider Jesus, met up at a haunt in Georgia. And I'd been messing around with TikTok, and, I was getting some traction here and there. And I was like, dude, you gotta get on with the TikTok. But at this time, there weren't a lot of haunters on, right? So trying to convince people to get it on there, and Cody himself, I was like, nah, man, you really need to get on here. We made our first TikTok together at the Lake Joy Trail of Terror prison haunt. And it was us like lip syncing, because that's all it was. That's all like TikTok was. We were lip syncing to some Slipknot song. And, it got like over 130,000 views. And then Cody was like, oh, wait a minute, there's something here. And I was like, yeah, dude, there really is something. And it wouldn't be like a year and a half later did Cody get one of his first like million views on the slider stuff. And then it just started picking up, and mine started picking up, and, I couldn't get my Instagram to move. I'd had like, maybe 10,000 followers for like, I don't know, 2 years at best. And that was fine. That was good enough. But like, it was TikTok that made it so everybody could see what sliding was. And there's still people to this day, they're like, why are you doing that? They don't know that it's part of haunted houses. They don't know that it's a scare tactic. And it's so weird to me, because, like you said, it was one of those things that it was such a fun scare, but not everybody knew about it. You know, you might be doing it by yourself at a haunt all night, and you know, you might try to convince some of your friends to do it. And they're like, "Oh no, that's your thing, man," or whatever. And you know, it doesn't always catch on. But nowadays, it's a whole new world.
But you're taking it even further than that. You're using props. You know, you guys are gluing ferro rods to every single part of your body.
Yes.
Where do I mean? What's the R&D to this? Like, where does all this come from?
So that's the craziest thing is that, you know, where sliding originated in California, they don't spark. You can't spark at Not Scary Farm or any Cedar Fair park for that matter. It's banned because of the fire, you know, the fire code, especially in California because it's so dry. But I had seen sliders at Netherworld sparking off their hands. They had a huge, you know, trail of sparks, you know, when they would go down a hill. I have one of the gloves here with me, you know, the basic slider glove. All it ever really was the fingers. But now you get these ferro rods on there or one of these pucks that have the ferro rods in them. You glue them there and you light up like crazy. And there were a couple people in the Midwest who started doing this, but again, it didn't catch on. It was just like on Facebook, and they were taking the Razor Spark scooter replacements from the scooters, and they were putting them into their ProTech knee pads, or they were putting them into the there they are. They were putting them into the Menards rockers, which, I mean, they're tough built rockers, but that's where the Midwest folks were getting them. And then, you know, Cody's, he made a contraption where it's just an entire brick of ferro, you know, and, you know, before you know, you're seeing everybody out Midwest, especially either putting the pucks on the pads or putting them on the toes. You know, I make custom recaps that I embed the stuff into myself. But yeah, the sparking, the attention grabbing sparks, that's what did it, I think. You know, because there had been all kinds of sliding videos and stuff prior to that, but seeing, you know, a 6 to 7 second video of the sliding and the sparks together, you know, it went viral, you know.
So I want to talk about the things that you make here in a sec, but I want to talk about something first. I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
Explain nights like these to people that don't understand, like how difficult it is to be a slider, you know, for 8, 9, 10 hours in a night nonstop. You know, I was one of those guys, and I knew plenty of sliders that wouldn't like take a break because as soon as they stopped moving, their joints would start locking up. They would, you know, their body just wouldn't work anymore. They just had to keep going. So explain some of your nights that ended not so great.
Oh, they're terrible. Like my second haunt was Warehouse 31 down here in Pelham, Alabama, and the ground there was terrible. And this was at a time it was still at a time where I was still learning stuff about sliding. And, you know, it was ground that I shouldn't have been sliding on in the first place, but I really wanted to make it happen. So, you know, I was only getting like 4 to 6 foot slides with them, and I'd be burning through my pads, or worse, I'd hit a crack and the pad would slip. And that's like the worst nightmare ever. It gets yanked down your leg and your kneecap meets that concrete, and it's just the gritty sandpaper. And yeah, I still got scars on my knees from it. But you know, you put gauze on it and you put some foam or whatever and stick the pad right back on, and you keep going. because that was really the mentality, especially, when you were a young slider, and anybody you talk to is like, you got to keep going. It's pedal to the metal. I wiped out one particular night. It was right in front of like 6 or 7 guests. It was so embarrassing. And it was one of those times the pad had come down and I just skidded my knee, and I just had to sit there and just wait for the shock of it to go over. I don't even know if I was in that much pain, but I was in the shock of like, and sometimes you kind of know right about as you're going down that this is the one that's not going to work out. This is the slide that's going to make you eat shit and you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, I think one of the worst ones for me was I was at Factory of Terror years ago, and I slid behind somebody and she got scared, and her heel went right into my face and completely split my lip all the way down. And I was in the front and I had to go to the back because I'm gushing blood everywhere. But the issue is this whole haunt's like has this giant midway. It's really the only way to kind of get to the back. So I'm walking through and people are like, "You look so realistic. Can we take pictures with you?" I was like, "Yeah, just don't touch me."
Yeah, all right.
Looks like we got a question here. I don't know if you can see that or not. Can you see that?
Will they spark on plywood? Could I build a ramp? So it depends on how rough the plywood is. It will spark, but probably not very good. You can slide on plywood, and I would imagine you'll go pretty fast, but it's not going to shoot, a whole lot of sparks.
I would figure with whether you used the pucks or the rods that it would probably actually tear up your plywood.
Yeah, there is a chance of that too. Depending on how the rods work. Like, so the particular styles, this rod, it's not going to slice anything up because of how it's angled and how it will like glide across. However, this puck here, do you see the little nubs? That will tear into your wood. And until like they're flushed, it could mess up the plywood. So there you go.
Now, for people that maybe don't have the best environment for sliding, maybe they got some gravel or some grass or, whatever, but they want to incorporate sliders into their show. What kind of tips and tricks would you give?
So I realized that there's a lot that you can do to improve the ground. Grass isn't going to work too well. Gravel's not going to work too well. But, if you're on, busted up concrete that's just a little too rough, you can smooth it out by rubbing candle wax on it. And I mean, the patch that you are intending to slide on, you want to rub a bunch of candle wax. Skate wax is even better. You can make your own with vegetable oil and, a bunch of candles. That can significantly improve bad ground. Now, if you don't have any concrete at all and you got dirt and you still want to slide, again, you can lay a plywood ramp and you will slide down it. You will slide on it.
So let's talk about some of the things that you're making, because you're one of the first guys to actually kind of go to market with this kind of stuff. I mean, you go to, Transworld or MHC and some of these other shows, and you might see a booth that might have a set of gloves or, the old Allen Hop style set of gloves somewhere. But like, you really have a catalog of things that you offer for sliders. So let's talk about some of the things you offer.
Yeah. So one of the main things that I offer, which goes hand in hand with the bad ground, because I travel to a lot of different haunts and you don't always know what you're going to get. But I always have a pair of recaps that I make. and they are over the knee pad. They're on like the outer shell of the base of the cap, and they're made out of, you know, high density polycarbonate. I mold them. They're all handmade, and they're designed to really take a lot of punishment. I've sold them to, you know, Carowinds, folks at Not Scary Farm. I've sold them to Netherworld. They're basically, they make it so you don't have to replace your pads. You know, I was going through a pair of Protex at Warehouse 31 in one weekend, and that's, you know, $35-$40. And you're like, shit, I got to buy new pads. Yeah. So to avoid that, I make a recap that goes over it. So you just burn through the recap, rip it off, throw it away, and put on another pair. But I make them so thick these days that they should last you an entire season. You know, a typical season that goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, end of September, you know, to October. That's one of the main things that I offer. And then I also have, you know, the gloves. And again, I work with so many different sliders who slide a little bit different. Some people are more heavy-handed. Like, these ones are mainly just for sparking. But with a huge puck piece like this, you can put a lot of weight on this. Sliders who are heavy-handed, they put a lot of weight on their hands. They do a lot of all four slides. These are the kinds of ones that, you know, I make. And you can see they're super thick, and they're designed to cover, you know, most of the palm. They don't have as much mobility as the other gloves do, but again, people slide and they do it a little bit differently. Like the folks out in California, they slide to do more stunt work. They jump over people, they spin, they do a lot of their main style, their main stunt is hopping over other sliders that are, you know, lying on the ground. So I make custom gloves for them. There's a spark stick that I make that extends, that was very much inspired by the video game Bloodborne. Pretty much weapons that, you know, transform or extend, and this was a wonderful thing. You know, you press a button and it's like Predator's spear. I don't have one on me right now. I'd show it to you, but even then, it wouldn't take up, you know, the whole camera wouldn't capture it. But yeah, I make a wide array of slider gear.
So, for people that are interested in getting into sliding as a slider, what kind of advice would you give?
So, there's a lot that sliders overlook, or people who want to be sliders, when it comes to the safety. I have tried to make budget-friendly gear, and I've tried to make it accessible. But I think as I have gotten older, you don't want to skimp on your gear, and it all starts with the knee pads. I won't recommend anything but ProTech or Killer 187's derby pads, because they have at least 2 inches of foam inserts in the knee. And, you know, there's a lot you can, just because you're young, you know, doesn't mean you can't mess something up. You know, you look at people who play football or any competitive sports. You want to protect that kind of stuff now, even if you think, well, you know, I'm young, I'm gooey, I can just heal and shit, you know. Starting with a good pair of knee pads and getting the right gear and learning to do it the right way. Finding somebody, and there's plenty of people that you can talk to, you know, you don't just have to, there's sliders everywhere. And they all have really good opinions, and people who've been doing it I know sliders who've been doing it for over 20 years now. And they'll tell you that you really want to try to protect your knees at all costs. But yeah, safety first.
I'm definitely paying for that now. I'm missing quite a bit of cartilage in my knees after over 10 years of sliding. It's not, and it happens quick.
Yeah.
It's one day you're like, I'm a little sore, and the next you're like, well, this wheelchair's fun.
Yeah.
It's a rapid decline if you're not taking care of yourself. That's for sure. That's awesome advice. What about some techniques that sliders should, you know, take the chance on and practice doing this, and take the risk, and some techniques that they should stay away from?
So the thing that you should practice first is I always say kneel to slide. So if you're running, you want to put one knee down first and let the other knee follow to slide. You don't ever want to do bam. Never jump and land on your knees. That is the quickest way to fuck up your knees. Just point blank. Always kneel to slide. Always, go down on one knee first, let the other knee follow. And that way you're getting a longer slide. It's a more controlled slide, and you're keeping yourself, centered and knees together. I see so many people slide. They'll slide and their knees do this. They spread out and then they slow down to a crawl. The most effective slide, the scariest slide, is the quickest. Well, bam, boom, slide, and you get up and you're out of it. It's the pop up after the slide that is really important, because you want to get in, get your scare, get out. Coming into for this slow, freight train slide, it's not as effective, and it won't get you the kind of scare or the effect that you're looking for.
So tell us where we can find Pongo Joe.
Well, you can find me mainly on Instagram, Pongo_Joe. That's where if you want to order any of my gear or stuff like that, you can shoot me a DM. I always take PayPal and Venmo. You can find me on Facebook, same thing, Pongo Joe or Joseph Bodkin. And I am as well on TikTok, but it's hard to send DMs and stuff on TikTok. But, I have a plethora of, videos and stuff demonstrating some of the gear and all that that you can look on TikTok as well.
Are you available?
Am I available?
Like, can you go and train if somebody wanted to have you out to their haunts and train and teach and things like that?
Yes, I will be doing some trainings this summer. And it just depends on, the dates. I am going to be at Spooky Woods up in North Carolina, as well as 20 minutes down the road from that, Woods of Terror. And then I'm going to be teaching over at City of Chaos in Anniston, Alabama. So I got 3 workshops, and that's not just sliding. That's also acting as well. Sliding is kind of like a bonus as part of the workshop, but I teach a lot of the queue line acting and stuff. So I'm definitely available, this summer or, come September. I will book all the way up till the very beginning of haunt season.
And speaking of haunt season, where can we go to find you?
Awesome. So yeah, I'm going to be traveling around. I'm going to be doing some local haunts here in Alabama. You might see me at Nightmare 3008. I'm definitely booked up at Woods of Terror. That's always the 3rd weekend of October is Woods of Terror in North Carolina. Going to be at Lake Hickory haunts, which is also in North Carolina. And I haven't confirmed this, but I'm thinking about going out to House of Torment out in Texas, and I love any excuse to go up to Chicago. I've worked for 13th Floor a couple times, so you might see me up there this Halloween as well.
Yeah, Chicago's a hotbed, man. I love it there. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
What's in the future for you? What are you going to be doing next? What can we expect? What's the next big thing you're going to be doing?
Well, I always like to have a new character or a variation. I changed Pongo up around. This year he's a cowboy, and I'm leaning more into it, because of the sliding and everything, and it's got this rootin' tootin', kind of vibe to it, and I think that's just a match made in hell there, I guess. And I'm also revamping my vampire character. That's something I'm always inspired by, like David Fincher and like Fight Club and stuff. So I'm leaning, heavy into that kind of realm of the '90s with my vampire. But yeah, more character creation and trying to bring out some new stuff for this coming season.
Well, for those of you who didn't know, Joe taught a very successful class down there at Fear Expo. We're hoping to have you back again to teach another class. So get that free education and that workshop in, because it's a class worth taking, not just for actors, for owners too. I mean, there's a lot of information there that Joe can help you get on the right path. And like I said earlier, I know Joe. So we've talked in passing a couple of times and stuff like that. He's a good dude. He's very, very knowledgeable. So if you have questions, ask this man. He's got answers for you. I promise you. Wait, we got one more question. See if I.
How long did it take you to learn to twirl a 6-shooter? Yeah, that's part of one of my my hunter character. Again, I'm always inspired by video games. It was Metal Gear Solid. That took about 2 months. They're replicas. You can get them off of Amazon. They're the Colt 45 classic Western. They have weight to them. They absolutely have a good chunky weight to them. So it took about 2 months of consistent, 3 times forward, 3 times back, 3 times forward, 3 times back. I watched stuff like Tombstone, for reference. So yeah, it took some getting used to make that happen.
Nice. Joe, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do for this business. And as a former slider myself, thank you for carrying the torch and making it bigger, badder, and better than it's ever been. I can't wait to see what you come up with next.
Thank you. Thank you.
Follow him on Instagram. He's got a lot of cool stuff up there. Follow him on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
Pongo_Joe.
Hit him up. Follow him tonight. All right. I will see you hopefully at Fear Expo next year.
Yep. I'll be there.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe.